Hi guys, Jesse from Fulla Strength and Conditioning here with episode number 7 of the From Average to Awesome podcast. Today I have a special guest coming online with me. It's a great friend of mine and he's an exercise physiologist, really smart man, and he is by the name of Tristan Hellings. So I'm going to give him a quick bell and going to get stuck into this, guys. I've got a couple really questions I want to get into him, and let's get into it straight away. Mr. Hellings, hello. Welcome to the From Average to Awesome podcast. It's fantastic to have you on board, mate.
Thank you for inviting me, mate. It's great pleasure.
About time I got you on the air. So, first of all, Trist, just a little bit of a background. Tristan and I have known each other for about, two plus years now?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years. So, Tristan and I used to work together as CrossFit coaches. I'll give you the chance, Trish. You can give us a bit of a background of sort of who you are and what you've done, and sort of your own journey in the health and fitness sort of routine, and tell everyone what you do for a job. Okay? Over to you, bud.
Yeah. Thanks, bud. So, I guess ever since I can remember, really, I've been involved with sport. So, growing up, forced to go into little athletics, then grew into triathlons from there. From that is when I really started to get my kind of niche into coaching. So, I started doing a lot of triathlon coaching around the age of 16, and then from there, it was pretty much a straight transition into studying exercise science, and then dabbled in doing PE teaching actually, and that went down the gurgler pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But, the kids are, I respect teachers on that side.
Yeah.
So then I went and did my postgraduate in exercise rehab. And since then, I spent 3 years up in the mines doing exercise rehab, running the gym up there, then transitioning over to injury prevention whilst up in the mines. Got bored of the FIFO lifestyle, as many do, and it wasn't really a good fit for myself. So then we came into doing more clinical-based stuff down in Perth. Did that for about 2 years, and at the same time I started to branch over into developing my own business, Fortitude Rehab and Conditioning, and focused on that exercise prescription and rehabilitation for chronic disease and workers' comp.
Yep.
And obviously in that time, coaching with Jesse for CrossFitters and doing that sort of strength and conditioning work as well, which is always a good change up for myself.
Fantastic. So, what sort of led you, obviously, going into the rehab side of things? Obviously, you, like you said, you're in triathlons for quite some time. What sort of made you want to do the jump from sort of being really competitive in that aspect to helping people sort of overcome injury and sort of that chronic disease that you're sort of more into nowadays?
I guess I was always big on helping others and trying to get them to achieve their goals. Look, I did a lot of competitive sports as a kid, and then developed more of a passion of trying to get others to achieve their goals, be it with specific coaching, or be it with actually improving their mechanics or improving their kind of capacity to achieve that goal. And that really tied over to exercise rehab as well. So trying to get people to go back to full duties at work, or get people who have got that chronic disease into a better kind of functional life pattern. Trying to educate them as much as you can. So I guess that kind of crossover from coaching and educating the kind of fit and healthy population came over into doing that with the injured and the chronic disease patients I deal with daily.
So is that sort of a matter of trying to bring up people's quality of life? So from being sort of injured, if you want to call it that, or just having these chronic diseases and then having them live a healthier, fuller life?
Yeah, for sure. So it comes down to trying to get them to become as functional as possible. So as you said, increase their quality of life so they can go down to the shops and pick things up without having to worry, or go to work and lift things without having to stress about re-injury. So, and then going over to the kind of type 2 diabetics, the osteoporosis is about giving them the best quality of life that they can do. Okay, so trying to get them to build that strong muscle, ligaments, bones, or to increase their kind of insulin sensitivity, and again get them fitter so they don't have that higher risk of further complications going further forward.
All right, cool. What's the main thing that you're most passionate about? What's the number one thing that you enjoy working with, and sort of the why?
It's a good question. I think because being ex-phys, you do have a really wide scope of clientele.
Yeah.
So I deal with, as we were just talking about, trying to get people back as healthy and functional and best quality of life as possible, and that's always the kind of rewarding side of my job, and getting them to be happy with what their lifestyle's like now. But I think my main passion is kind of fixing people's, or dealing and helping them get through to their biomechanics and helping their movement patterns.
Yeah.
That's causing kind of injury or increasing their risk of injury. So I always like that kind of problem solving, finding out kind of what's either hyperactive, what's underactive, what's stronger, what's kind of weaker, and why is it causing that problem to begin with. So definitely musculoskeletal issues is probably my preferred kind of clientele if I was to pick one.
Yeah. Is there a movement pattern or a set of circumstances that you find you come into contact with on a regular basis? So is there something that you see pretty much all the time and you can attribute to one sort of action or style of movement at all?
Look, probably...
it's a broad question.
Yeah, it's a very broad question, but going for what I see mainly, it's probably a lot of lower backs. This is a good kind of chicken or egg scenario. So I deal with a lot of lower back clientele, and on the general basis, their glutes aren't activating or firing in the right sequence. So once we get them to kind of fire, that's when we normally can relieve that lower back pain. There is a whole another cycle to lower back pain, which I don't think we'll delve too much into today.
Yeah, we can save that for a further podcast.
Yeah, that kind of pain cycle is another kind of can of worms, I guess you would say. But yeah, in terms of firing patterns, and something that we can definitely, most people can work on, is that glute power, because they are the kind of power horse of the body. Get them firing and strong and get those hips stable, then the rest of the body will be, or should be, better for it.
Okay, so that tails on to my next question. What aspect of sort of the average person's life do you think could be improved? But I also want to go into the how. So with regards to the glutes, just give us a general sort of guideline. What should people be doing and how frequently?
Oh, again, that's it's
very broad, but just a general with the people that you work with. Just give us sort of the staples that you'd want to implement with them.
In terms of for lower backs, I'll be looking at activation sequence first. So making sure that we are getting that firing pattern. So the glutes are firing before the hamstrings are firing to do certain movements. And the back is doing kind of minimal work, especially during kind of extension. So where you were starting, when you were walking, as you extend your leg back, what's doing that movement? Okay, we know glute should be the main driver, but unfortunately, majority of people, it is the hamstring or the lower back taking that load. So if we can get that active, so doing this kind of floor-based exercises for a while, so you can do things like clam, sideline, kind of leg lifts, pretty kind of low-key activation exercise.
So they're not the fancy stuff. It's sort of the, if you want to call it, the boring or the lower level stuff that they need to start with first.
Correct. On that general basis, it is the boring stuff that people have to do to get onto the more functional type movements. And that's what we want to try and get onto as quickly as you can. That's where it has that crossover effect into the real world. Okay, so we can know if we can get that activity going on during the lying down exercises, then you're going to have more of an effect once you go on to the more kind of stable exercises of like the single leg squats, some crab exercise, toe taps, all that kind of glute activation exercises. Otherwise, if you try and go from 0 to 100 without going by 50, you run the risk of becoming either quad dominant, again, just not activating those glutes. So that's definitely something that we find very often in our patients.
Okay. Once again, another pretty broad question, but with regards to exercise, what's the one thing that you see people get wrong too often? So whether it be a category of movements, just the type of movements, the duration, the weight lifted, what is sort of one of the, or give us three things, what are the three main things you see people just in a general setting sort of get wrong, for lack of a better term? If you had to put three,
Yeah, let's try to go for three, so you might have to count this one for me. I think coming from the triathlon background and not knowing that science back then when I was training is doing a lot of junk miles. So a lot of wasted time during those endurance kind of type events when we know through science and kind of evidence-based studies now that the shorter kind of high intensity interval work is the way to go. And we know it puts less stress on the body, so those people going out who are training for kind of Ironmans, half Ironmans, marathons, etc., to be focused more on the interval and high intensity work, and that will increase your quality of life as well in terms of family, relationships, work, stress, everything like that.
Would you, just to jump in, would you say that's applicable for, say, the shorter distance, like the 5 to 10K lengths as well, for, say, example, the HBF fun run, things like that?
For sure, same crossover effect. So, look, if I was to give a training plan for the HBF or the City to Surf, I would maybe go for one run at that desired distance, just for a mental side of it, just to say, okay, I can do that distance. But the majority of my training wouldn't be any longer than 8K, and that would be kind of every other day, or not every other day, but kind of once a week doing a longer run at a kind of tempo pace, and then the rest of the time I'll be sitting around that kind of 5K mark, but with some really high intensity, hitting around the 80 to 90% heartbeat.
Okay, cool.
Okay, let's go on to number two. Number two, I would definitely say the average person, or what they're going to do wrong, is going into a gym class setting and going into kind of all out, kind of just smashing for that 60 minutes or whatever that class length is.
So like a bit of a bull in a china shop sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly right, bud. And we all had those clients or patients we've had before who are, I guess, better word of uncoachable. So don't listen to that, just won't do what you're saying, just start lifting heavy things without worrying about technique, form, or anything like that. So I think that's definitely something. Always be coachable, and always listen to others. If you don't try and be that, leave your ego at the door, is what I'm trying to say.
I like it.
Number three. I guess this would come down to, just on a broad spectrum, is doing and getting into something that you love. Too often people get into kind of these fads. So CrossFit is a big one, and they go out and their kind of body's not there, they're not really ready for it, they don't enjoy it, and then they last kind of 6 months, and it goes out the window. So if you can find something that you're really passionate about, you enjoy, and that can tie over to what you do kind of outside of work, so it's not taking too much time and you're still getting those health benefits, then I'll definitely say stick with that. So don't be drawn into something, and don't try and stick it out if you don't kind of enjoy it. Find something you really do enjoy and just keep at that and try and improve on whatever that is.
That's a good point. I like that one as well, actually, because oftentimes, just with the sheer number of people, whether it be doing classes or just doing individual exercise routines, they just get dragged into a type of training or even a sport, and they just stick it out because either they don't want to let themselves down or sort of let the team down if it's a team scenario, yet they actually don't like what they're doing. They don't enjoy it.
That's right, and that's, I guess, a same thing. And what you would see with a lot of your clientele is, and I see it all the time as well, is the weight fluctuation side of it. So
Yes. Yeah.
coming into summer, let's get that great summer body, let's smash it out for 6 weeks, hit summer, then we get that lifestyle of the kind of Barbie, beers, everything like that goes out the window, and that cycle just keeps going through. Whereas if they had something they enjoy, they'll continue it on year in, year out.
Yeah.
So don't be brought into those those fads and that kind of seasonal training.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. I like the three answers there. The junk miles, people going too hard too soon, and just doing something you enjoy or you love doing. That's I like that third one. Question 6: how can office workers improve their overall posture? So, what are some of the main tips that you see with the businesses and the clients that you work with, and what are the recommendations you generally give out for people who are office or they're desk bound? How can they improve their posture?
Alright, so we'll go with the desk bound people, because opening up into the kind of manual handling side of it is another big one, because that comes really into a specific kind of job. So whereas being office-based, you're going to be in a kind of less of a variable state. So I tend to tell my office workers to be moving at least every kind of 40 minutes. You want to be moving for about 2 minutes.
Yep.
Okay? Because we know if you don't move for an hour, so if you're just sitting at your desk for an hour straight, you're going to have a biochemical change in your body. So what will happen is your kind of fat stores, which is normally being used by your muscles, will just turn into abdominal. Okay, so it'll just sit there, won't get burnt. Whereas if we're moving and become more active, muscles are working, it's going to burn that. All right.
Yep.
Then you've got the crossover effect of kind of going into the standing desk, which has now become a big.
That's what I'm on. That's what I've currently got.
There we go. And that can be another, which again can be another whole podcast on, but can have the drawbacks as well. So I wanted to say the best thing to be doing is sitting and standing. To have that kind of that happy medium. So during kind of fine motor skill type movements, we'll be sitting down, okay, and then you can do standing up for your other aspects. So to answer your question, which I've just kind of gone around the bush there, key things I see, I would like people moving a lot more. People sit down for too long and get stuck in front of that task, what they're doing. Studies have shown as well that if you move and do kind of micro postural breaks, so just kind of stretch, do something, and break that up, then you're going to be more productive. Okay, you're not going to get just drained down. Number 2 is make sure your desk has good ergonomics. Okay, so your screen you're looking at is around kind of eye level. Everything is within kind of that 90 degree. You're not having to reach forward too often to grab something, bones, stapler, whatever you have there. And also making sure what's happening up here, because what I see a lot of time with office workers is they'll tend to be drawn forward because the screen's forward, everything's in front of them, they'll be just drawn into that kind of hunched position. So if you can maintain some postural exercise, so some scap retractions on the desk, stretching your lats, your traps out while you're kind of sitting there on the phone, switch sides, same thing, and just making sure that we're kind of watching out for what's happening here. Okay? Because And that translates over to life as well. We are very much anterior beings in terms of we don't do enough pulling movements to counteract what we're doing in front of us.
We're always reaching or going forwards, yeah.
Correct. So if we can kind of do some sort of scat works and pulling movements in your life, it's going to make things a lot better and reduce those amounts of kind of tension, headaches, or sore traps you're getting, or even shoulder impingements, which can happen a lot with office workers.
So when you talk about pulling, would you more in favour of a vertical pull from overhead, or more of a horizontal pulling in towards the torso? What's going to be sort of more bang for your buck? If sort of getting that retraction and scapulas the main thing people need to focus on?
I'll definitely going for more of a horizontal pull to kick things off. Just due to the fact of getting those retractions going on with that scapula, but it also has the kind of byproduct of opening up that pec, which we find a lot of is that pec minor kind of scalings get really tight during those movements. So if we're at the desk, people just become really tight in there and enclosed. So just doing those kind of horizontal pulls, whether it be a row, whether it be just straight pull downs, as long as we're getting a retraction with the shoulders and the shoulder blades is being compromised by the lumbar doing the extending work, which can happen all too often if we don't, if we haven't been used to it before as well. Yeah. So it could be a fact of just doing it just on the seat, just so you get that proprioception, and then you can start to add in some sort of external source, whether it be barbell,
dumbbells. Rope. Yep. Yeah. All right. So with regards to those micro breaks, is there an app, or how do you recommend people schedule it? They set an alarm on their phone. What have you found to be the most effective? Or is it literally just look at the clock and every 40 minutes go and get out of the seat?
Yeah, so there is I can't remember what the app is called, but you can get something either on your computer as well that shuts your computer down. Yep. So you can't actually, it will put it into lock until you've kind of stepped away for a couple of minutes and then come back. So I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but that is a very good source to keep you moving.
Yep.
Okay? Too often bosses and everyone needs to be educated as well, because it's not going to be affecting performance and not going to be affecting that output.
Yeah.
Because it's been shown that it actually increases performance and it makes people happier in terms of mental state as well.
Yep.
Because we're kind of brought into that looking at the screen for
8 hours
straight, then headaches and everything, all that kind of side effects can happen, for sure.
Okay. I know you do some workshops and stuff on manual handling as well, so this goes back to sort of the earlier question, but what's the most common ailment, disease or injury that you see within sort of just the common workplace? Is it that lower back, or is there something else that you think maybe ties in as a second with sort of the people that you treat?
Yeah, I'll definitely say lower backs are my number one.
Yep.
Sometimes lower backs don't need to be number one, but it's just that, again, this is opening that can of worms, but it comes because it's your spine. People get freaked out by it and think it's, if they don't have their spine kind of right, or they're getting pain in it, that it's going to finish their job and their livelihood, which is what's can be a big byproduct of this. So I would definitely say I'd work with a lot of lower backs, but also deal with a lot of shoulders as well. And that's coming down to the same thing we'll kind of just talk about, poor mechanics or poor activation issues whilst doing something, whether it be lifting, pushing, pulling. So in the kind of workers' compensation side of it, it's definitely, and in the private side of it, it's those two are my probably biggest clientele.
Yep.
Moving on into the kind of disease setting, it's more a kind of 50-50 between type 2 diabetes and osteoporosis.
Yep.
Obviously, with the kind of baby boom, more of that kind of osteoporosis is more prevalent now. So just trying to educate and do what we can to help them strengthen their bones, strengthen muscle, strengthen ligaments and tendons. And then also those ones leading up into that stage now in the kind of osteopenia and the onset of that, if we can get them moving and doing some sort of resistance work, then that's going to help them. So we can pretty much like yourself, getting them as fit as we can.
Yeah, so with regards to the osteoporosis, I know as people age, they tend to get drawn to the sort of the low level or less impact exercise or activities, things even like the pull. Is that something that they should do specifically to treat osteoporosis, or will they need to do weights or resistance-based training to sort of, for lack of a better word, sort of treat that disease or illness?
If they're, unfortunately with a lot of these, there is a kind of contraindication, so they've got kind of cardiac, or they've got the type 2, or there is something else that's kind of stopping them. So it is sometimes finding what works for them and what they're happy with. But on a general setting, if we can get them load bearing as much as possible, doing a lot of balance work, doing a lot of stability work, that's where they're better off. Sometimes that can be in the pool if they're kind of osteoarthritic in their knees or hips or something, then and we're having to deal with that, then yes, you can still get away with that. But if you're able to, then you want to be doing as much kind of strength work, resistance work, stability work, balance work as you can to help your quality of life.
Yeah. Okay, great. As a whole, do you think Australians, just as a country, do you reckon we're heading in the right direction to improve our overall health? So this isn't for sporting, it's not for aesthetics, just talking for general health and well-being. Do you think that we're doing enough to improve it?
Absolutely not. Definitely not. I think we are definitely heading in a downward spiral. I was reading a stat the other day where it was 25% of children now are overweight or obese. So that's a scary fact. So, and that's, unfortunately, the buck stops with the parents. The kid doesn't get the choice of really what they're putting in the mouth. Yes, I'm not a parent, so I'm sure I'll get some backlash for this, but they don't get a choice. They don't pack their lunchbox, etc. They may chuck a dummy spit, etc. to get what they want, but it's all coming down to what they're putting in their mouth.
Yeah, what's being provided to them. Yeah.
Correct. And that's that scary fact as well, that we have around that 60% mark of adults that are overweight and obese.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a correlation between the two anyway.
The stat that I read last was 63% of Australians are either overweight or obese, which is it's pretty shocking. It's almost 2/3 of the country are either overweight or obese, which is it's a sad fact, unfortunately. It's just the way, like you said, it's going in a downward spiral. So
yes, that's correct, and it's just coming down to that readiness of food and people becoming, or things becoming more convenient for them. So whether it be takeaway, whether it be having the kid be quiet, watching an iPad or whatever else, which can be all right at sometimes when you're having dinner. You don't have a screaming kid next to you, so I won't just give him an iPad. But you know what I mean? If we can have that as more of a reward than a kind of a dummy for them.
Yeah.
So once you're out for dinner, yes, they can have their iPad, but are they having that iPad morning, night, dinner kind of thing? That's the thing. So technology is definitely something that has changed, and it has changed for the worse for a lot of us, I think. Be it with posture, be it with health, be it with socialisation as well.
Yeah. Everything's all online. Yeah.
Sure. So, to answer your question, no, I don't think we're heading in the right direction. I think a lot needs to be done with education, and I think there are the resources out there. It's not rocket science. I think people just ignore it and go for more convenient.
That's easiest. They just take the easy option.
Okay. And that's with everything as well. That's with exercise. That's with health. That's with nutrition. That's with dealing with situations as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got what I like to call an ideal training week. So this is specifically for people who are wanting to lose body fat and increase lean muscle mass. My guidelines for that would be 3 to 4 times weight training per week, 1 interval session per week, and 1 steady state cardio per week. For the benefits of just general health and injury prevention, what would you sort of give as a guide or an outline for people to do on a weekly basis? What sort of training schedule, I suppose, would you give just for the average Joe looking to stay healthy and stay injury free?
It's a good question. I like the outline as well. I think it works well for that average person who isn't kind of in that 63%. I think that's what you stated. So you're not really within that, or you're on that borderline. I think that's definitely a very good guideline. I guess my general and my straight out advice to a lot of people is to increase their non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So they're kind of what they do on a day-to-day basis where they're not having to take that time to exercise. You might give yourself 60 minutes to exercise a day.
Yep.
If that is your thing, whatever it is. But what are you doing for the rest of for that 23 hours, or even not even 23 hours, if you get 8 hours kind of sleep? What are you doing for your 15 hours
Yep.
a day? And that's where we can start to pick up a lot of, or burn a lot of the calories, I guess you would say. So are you taking the stairs? Are you walking kind of to the bus stop, or are you driving to the train, etc.? So little things that you can increase, so those non kind of exercise movements that we can do to burn kind of more calories, I guess you would say, going forward.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll be definitely looking, as we talked about, is that activity that you enjoy. So if you can find that, then I think that's going to make a big difference to your training regime. But if you are getting into the aging aspect, then you need to add in some sort of weight-bearing activity.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you're not doing that, then we're going to be increasing our risk of that osteoporosis and everything like that. So if we can start to add in some sort of resistance work 2 to 3 times a week, perfect.
Yep.
And as long as you're kind of moving and you're going at a good guideline is about 90 minutes of vigorous exercise a week. So if you get 90 minutes of vigorous exercise a week, then you're going to be you're highly reducing that risk of kind of those risk factors in terms of, those kind of cardiac diseases, the type 2 diabetes, the osteoporosis. If you can get all that kind of stuff in, then you're going to be good.
All right.
If I answer the question, I don't know if it's got in that big kind of circle again.
Yeah, it does. It sort of encompasses a lot of what we've already covered in the past questions. So we're looking at incorporating activities we like to do, just daily sort of movement, so taking the stairs, things like that, incidental activity, and just trying to get 90 minutes or thereabouts of vigorous exercise per week. So I think we've encompassed pretty much everything there. We want a bit of resistance training, we want a little bit of cardio, if you want to call it that. So yeah, I think that covers all bases there.
I think it's coming into, a lot of people get scared to get into that resistance side as well, so they can find a professional like yourself and show them what that needs to be done. A lot of them don't like going into that gym setting or think that it's the only way they can get that resistance work in. So if they can, you can find someone to show you, and unfortunately there are some better resources than others.
Very diplomatic. Very diplomatic way of saying it, I like it.
Stop myself halfway through there. But yeah, so find that professional, get them to show you how to use those equipment, or go and show you what you can do on it as an alternative to going to the gym.
Okay.
Right? It's definitely something for sure.
Right. We did a bit of a Q&A on Facebook, and we've got a question in from Luca. So Luca's question is, with regards to hyperlordosis and anterior pelvic tilt, he wants to know what are the best exercises to stretch or relieve the overactive muscles on one side, and the best exercises to strengthen the weak muscles on the opposing side. So that's a good question.
It is a good question, and it is something that we see too often. This is where that standing up desk can come into a bit of a downfall as well. So if we're not having that right posture, then we're hanging off different ligaments.
So just quickly, before you go into the explanation, can you give everyone just a real basic explanation of lordosis and anterior pelvic tilt?
Okay, so lordosis is that's explaining kind of what's happening in the lower part of your spine. So with the spine, you've got a normal S shape. So coming from your neck, comes out in your thoracic, and then comes back into your tailbone. All right. So the lordosis is this inward curve of the spine. So I'll go up here. Sorry, inward curve of the spine up there.
Yep.
So an excessive lordosis would be saying that it's curving further in.
Okay.
All right. Which is very, I wouldn't say it's probably happening, to be honest with you. Not saying that Lucas doesn't have a lordotic spine, but saying that it's probably more coming down to what's happening at the pelvis than actually at the spine itself.
Okay.
And that's where it comes down to that spine factor, and people going, okay, it's all in the spine, and then that's where the buck stops.
Yeah.
Whereas we probably would be looking more at what is happening with the glute activation there. So is it these glutes aren't firing, and that's causing that, anterior tilt is the pelvis going anteriorly, so going forward. So with your pelvis, it wants to be sitting kind of nice and neutral normally, but with an anterior tilt, it's going slightly forward, and that's where you could get, so if you've got a lumbar spine coming here, if that's going forward, that's where you're probably thinking that lordosis is coming from. So I'll be believing it'll be more coming from the hips than it will be coming from the spine. I think that's just a byproduct without even seeing his body.
Yep.
So what's the general cause of this? Look, if he's in an office worker, I'll be looking more at his psoas, his kind of hip flexors, being kind of really tight, and then I'll be looking at his glutes being really underactive.
Yep.
They work in correlation and antagonistic to each other. So if we can have one kind of firing up, getting those glutes nice and fired up during getting them going into what we were talking about before, clam, sideline, leg lifts. Maybe if he's already sporty, going into more of that functional type, it's very hard to say without seeing what's going on. But then also loosening up through that anterior section there. So going into a really elongated split lunge, so where your legs out back and driving that hip forward, making sure you're trying to counteract what that hip's doing. So we want to go forward more, so you're going to have to try and draw that hip back or belly button up towards your chest.
Yeah. Okay.
Or belt buckle, whatever your kind of cue is, belt buckle, chest, whatever kind of works for you.
Tuck under or something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly right. So just loosening up kind of all your quads, your hip flexors and your psoas. If you Google them, they'll be able to show you a multitude of stretches for those three kind of areas. But there are some things that could be going on in the posterior section as well. So it is too hard to say that it is just tight muscles at the front, weak muscles at the back. So I would tell him, if this is something that is bothering him, to go see and get it assessed. Because it's too generic, and this is where we get it wrong. A lot of time people Googling what's wrong with them.
Yeah, they need to go and see a professional, so they can get everything looked at and assessed. Yeah, absolutely.
And that was given that clear picture of what is actually happening, so they can just go, okay, that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Rather than, okay, I'm going to try this, nothing works, I'm going to give it a go, give it a miss, and just deal with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Change as well. So you can try those things. Work on the front in terms of loosening it up with some static stretches, self-myofascial leash using foam roller, spiky ball, cross ball,
Kettlebell.
and then add in some glute exercises, and then you can start to work on more of those traditional core movements and being able to stabilise in a neutral spine or neutral position through movement.
Yeah.
But until you can do that, I'll be looking at kind of right in that position first.
Okay. Roger that. All right. So as a sort of a general rule of thumb, without having anyone assess you, you would say sort of try and lengthen or loosen off the muscles of the front and tighten up the muscles of the back. So we're getting that that pelvis from being sort of forwardly tilted to neutral, or to more of a neutral position.
Yeah, correct. Yep. And this is something that I would tell a lot of my office workers to do, especially if they're doing a lot of sitting down, because we know that the glutes become inactive.
Yes.
Or switched off. They're always going to be there. It's just if they become weaker than other muscles. So
yep.
I would always get them doing glute work and some stretching, because you're in a shortened position at the front, sitting down. Get those glutes active because they're becoming inactive, if you say as well. Yeah.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. Question that I'm going to get all of my guests to answer. Question 11. How can people transition from average, where they currently are, to awesome, where they want to go? So whether it be improving aesthetics, so losing body fat, building more muscle, becoming bulletproofing their body. How can people go from average to awesome, Tristan?
Consistency. Definitely consistency. And you have to make sacrifice. You may have to miss your kind of Friday Arvo drinks, but it has to be consistency. If you want something and you have the goal, then you need to be working at it. It's not going to happen overnight. It won't. You need to work at it. You need to put some time into it. So set yourself some micro goals, little things to achieve, and if you need to, again, kind of sit down with someone to plug them out if you're kind of just lost at where. It doesn't have to be a health professional. Sit down with your partner, get that external view at it, but set yourself those goals and put those goals in somewhere that you're seeing them on a daily basis.
Yeah,
because that will keep you focused.
Absolutely.
If you don't, then things can fall down to the wayside. Other things can come up. Life can happen.
Yeah.
But it depends on how bad you want to be awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it. It's a good explanation, though, and I think they tie in pretty much with everything we've already covered, whether it be sort of getting out of a chronic injury or something. It's about consistency. It's about doing those basic things over and over and over again, and it's just a matter of making the time to do it. Like you said, sacrifice on a Friday afternoon. It's fitting we're actually recording this on a Friday, but instead of going for the pub for those few beers, maybe you have to give it up and go and do what you need to do. So I really resonate with those answers, mate, and they make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's right, and that's exactly where they get it from, is that consistency side. People don't get those results from luck.
Yep. All right. Finishing off, Bud, where can people find you online? Where can they get in touch with you if they want to find out, or if they want more resources on injury prevention and relieving or improving chronic health issues? Where can they find you? Where are you located? Give us your details.
The old plug. Okay. So you can find me online at fortitudrc.com.au. You can send me an email at tristan@fortitudrc.com.au. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to ask that way. Same thing on Facebook as well. We're at just Fortitude Rehabilitation and Conditioning. Just search for us. In terms of if you wanted to book an appointment or anything like that, you can do that online through my website, or I do run out of a clinic in Melville and also in Success as well. So if you live somewhere in between there, we can accommodate you. We do provide mobile service as well for those who are unable to travel a lot of times. So that is a possibility as well.
Fantastic.
I'm pretty sure that's a good plug.
All right. Any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to add for the viewers out there, bud?
No, I think we've covered a fair bit. Again, thank you for having me on board. It's always a pleasure to help out the greater community, for sure.
Fantastic. Tristan, appreciate your time, mate. Thanks for the great advice for all the listeners out there.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, buddy. See ya.
Yeah.
So there we have it, guys. Tristan Hellings, episode number 7. We covered quite a bit in there. It was 45 minutes or so. So we hope you benefited from this, guys. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, okay, and share it with a friend. If you'd like more information on what we've provided or what Tristan had to offer, send him an email or get in touch with us at Fulla Strength and Conditioning, and we will put you in touch from there. Appreciate you guys listening in. Until next time, go and be awesome. Bye-bye.